Eric Mangini was with Bill for years and years and has the rings to prove it. When I watch Bill there, that looks like a guy that's not done coaching. That was my interpretation. What was yours?
It didn't really look like a love fest for 24 years together and 6 Super Bowls. And we all know in relationships, very rarely is it mutually parting ways. And I'd say it might be mutually parting ways because Bill probably has something else lined up. I don't know if it would have been as friendly and together as it was if he didn't. But I imagine that Bill ultimately would have liked to have stayed in New England and finished it out there, but wasn't going to be able to, and probably isn't that upset because now he's free to go do something else, and I imagine he's got something lined up already.
Is there a fit with Bill that you think about and go, oh, that would look right, that would feel right?
Washington, to me, is interesting, and I know we talked about it before. I like the idea because that's the area that he's from. They desperately need to be revamped in so many different ways, and Bill would bring that. The difficulty I see is it looks to be a very hands-on owner. This is a guy who was, when he was in the business world, was extremely demanding, wanted answers right now, and I just don't know how that part of the relationship is going to work and whether or not the owner will be willing to take a step back and say, okay, I'm going to defer to Bill and I'm bringing him in for his experience and all these things, or whether it's going to be one of those situations where it's a clash pretty early on because it's two such strong personalities.
All right, Gerard Mayo, well-liked linebacker coach, no head coaching experience. And then there's Mike Vrabel. I think Vrabel's a great candidate. My concern is he couldn't get the offense right ever, perfectly right in Tennessee, and it's an offensive league. Do you think Vrabel, they got to solve offense. They got personnel issues, culture issues with their offense, and Vrabel's more of a defensive guy. Is he a good fit to replace Bill?
Well, here's when I think about those two guys. If you go and make the move with Gerard Mayo, you're getting exactly the same thing. Gerard's never played anywhere else. He's never coached anywhere else. The only system he knows is the system that he's been in. So you're going to get a younger version, a different personality, but he can't draw on any outside experiences of other ways to do it. Where with Mike, the great thing about Mike, obviously the head coaching experience is fantastic. He had success as a head coach, but he's also coached at other places. He's coached at Ohio State. He's coached at Houston. He's seen other systems, but he's got the benefit of knowing how New England works. He understands that culture. He understands ownership. Mike seems like a home run if New England could ever do it. I don't know if you want to go follow Bill Belichick because of what the expectations are. And Gerard Mayo, I'm sure he's an excellent candidate, but it's the same thing that you had, and that could be that's going to be challenging.
Pete Carroll, the age thing, people are healthier now. 73 now is 63 15, 20 years ago. Nutrition, balance, life, food, whatever. I don't worry a ton about age, but here would be my concern on Pete Carroll. Pete, you changed assistants. You changed coordinators. You changed quarterbacks. And you haven't done anything really well for 5 years. Like, their defense is a mess. Pete, it's your side of the ball. There's players everywhere. There's good players, Pro Bowl level players. So for me, my takeaway on Pete is it's the wrong side of the ball. I don't worry about the age. I just think if you're a defensive coach or an offensive coach, you got to get your side of the ball right. And if you don't for an extended period, I do wonder if the sport has to some degree passed you by. Is that fair?
Well, just like what you mentioned with your wife saying that in HR, sometimes people aren't willing to change. Pete's willing to change.
Yes.
Pete's changed maybe too much. And maybe that's been the fault of his is he's tried too many things. But I would imagine that Pete, from an energy perspective, from all that's going to be fine. I like the idea of Pete going back to college. I like the idea of him taking over some college program. I think he'd be unbelievable there. Just like with Jim potentially coming back to finish what he started in the NFL. I like the idea of Pete potentially doing that in college. You know, the other outside idea that nobody's talked about is what about Nick Saban? I would, if I had an organization that I was running, I would make a call on Nick. Nick had that experience with the Dolphins. If you're going to go the older coach route, he'd be a guy that I'd be interested in talking to too, and see what he thinks.
Jim Harbaugh, first of all, I think everybody that knows him was happy for the national championship. Michigan's a top 10 job in the country, pro or college. It's a wonderful place to live. What is your gut feeling on Harbaugh? Is there a fit that works for him?
I don't have a gut feeling on Jim, because Jim's so unique. And again, as we talk about coaches who have had experience both college and pro, and he's accomplished the ultimate that he can accomplish and bring his alma mater a national championship. I think Jim would like to win a Super Bowl. So I would see at this moment him being able to move on from Michigan, go take an opportunity in the NFL, potentially win a Super Bowl. And from a fit perspective, Jim can make any place fit. And he's unique. He has his way of doing things that isn't necessarily the traditional way, but it works. And whether it's a system like the Chargers that's more family run, or whether it's one person on top like Atlanta, I don't see it being a problem either way. Jim can fit into any organization. They're just going to have to understand that, you know, he has a unique way of doing things, and it's both fun and successful, but that brings its challenges too.
Yeah. I would go offensive coach to New England, because I think Sean McVay would have trouble in 2 years solving New England's lack of personnel. I just don't think they have any speed. They got a decent O-line personnel. Is there anybody out there? Could a Ben Johnson, who's never been a head coach, walk into that pressurized thing and work? Well, I mean, I just think their offense is 100. It feels like it's Jurassic. They just need a new set of eyes and ears.
But all these jobs, it's a question of who the quarterback is. It really is. And you know, look at the situation in Denver, and there's a really good coach, an established coach, a coach that's been incredibly successful, and he's having problems without a quarterback. And Sean Payton, when he figures that out, is going to continue to be successful. It's the same thing in New England. If you can get a quarterback or anybody that can give you some level of consistent competitiveness, then you got a chance to win and win quickly. And that's why the Chargers job should be so intriguing to so many people, is because you think you've got to figure it out at the most important spot. But if whoever you put in New England, if you don't get the quarterback situation worked out to some degree, that's a lot better than what it was these past few years. It doesn't matter who walks in there.
Finally, I think Bill the coach was unraveled by Bill the GM. Would he cede power? Do you think Bill could work alongside somebody and not on top? That he could say, guy goes, Bill, this is what we're going to draft. This is what we need. I'm part of this too. You're not going to usurp my power. Could Bill work with somebody like that?
No, probably not. But Bill, I think, does a really good job with free agency and with on the pro side. And he's brought in a lot of guys over the years that have really helped in a significant way. The college side has been more of a struggle. Now, for him to get the opportunity that he wants, he may have to get into some type of relationship. But I would think to bring him in, it's got to be more of a partnership where the GM has power but is willing to defer. Because who is going to sit and tell Bill, this is the guy that you need to coach? This is the guy that should be on the 53-man roster. No, we're not bringing in this free agent. It's just hard to envision the personality that can do that and can do it effectively. That person's probably going to have to be a little bit of a salesman. Going to have power, but also need to be a little bit of a salesman for it to work.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.